Hi, I'm Jason Sanders, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a no-code app that connects to OpenAI's image generator to create a custom image. Now, I'm going to use a program called Bubble, so you'll need a free account, and if you don't already have one, and you'll also need a serverless API function that pings OpenAI's API. And if you don't know how to do that, please watch one of my previous videos where I walk you through the process of how to create such a function. So let's get started. I'm going to remove my head here so I don't get in the way of what I need to show you. And let's go over to, this is the Bubble homepage. So when you create a free account and you sign in for the first time, it should look something like this. And the first thing to do is click on this Create an App button and then enter a name. So let's see, what should we call this? Image generator. And then I'm going to just enter in a few numbers so that it's a unique URL. Actually, let's call this AI image generator. Okay, I'm going to click Get Started. And that should take us to the setup wizard. Okay. This is the setup wizard, and step one, it gives us the opportunity, if we want, to change the name of our app. I'm just going to leave it the same. Click Next Step. App font, Open Sans, that's fine, so I'm going to click Next Step. Set your default colors, that's fine. I'm going to click Next Step. And then for step 4, what's important is that you click on Install Now for the API connector. So what we're going to do is connect this app that we're about to create in Bubble to a Microsoft Azure function that I've already created that connects to OpenAI's API. So in other words, it allows us to send a description of an image we'd like to create to OpenAI's API via a Microsoft Azure function. And I'm going to click Install Now and then get started building. And so this has taken us to the design page of our app. And I'm going to create 4 elements. So this is going to be a very basic application. This video is not intended to be a tutorial for Bubble. I just want to show you how you can create a basic app in Bubble and then connect it to OpenAI's API. So the first thing to do is to create a title for our app. And I'm going to do that with a text box here. And let's see, what should we call it? OpenAI image generator. Okay. And I want to make that a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make it 30, size 30. I'd like it to be bold and maybe the text a little more gray. Okay, that looks good. And the next thing I'm going to put into our app here is an input field. So I'm going to scroll down here and find input. Here it is. And then put an input field here. So this is basically where the user of the app can enter in the description of the image that they would like OpenAI to create. And I'm going to change the text here. I'm going to write enter description of image you would like. Looks okay. Enter description of image you would like. Let me click on that and justify it. Okay, so next we need a button. So we need a button that the user can click on to fire up the app. In other words, to send the description of the image they want to OpenAI and get back an image generated by OpenAI. So I'm going to click on button and put that here and say get response. Okay, maybe, oops, let's maybe make it just a little smaller. Okay. And maybe I'll move it up just a bit. So next we need a place to display the image that we get back from OpenAI. And to do that, you want to click on image here and create a container that's going to hold the image that we get back. Maybe something like that. Okay. Great. So we have our 4 elements for our app. And the next thing to do is to set up a workflow or a chain of events that we want to happen when a user clicks on this get response button. So I'm going to click on get response or double click on it. And then I'm going to hit click on add workflow. Now, before getting in and creating the workflow, we need to hook up this app to my Microsoft Azure function that I've created that connects or that pings OpenAI. So I'm going to click on plugin and then add another API. And I'm going to call this main connector or maybe primary connector. And I don't need to change anything here. And we need to hit expand and give this a name. And the name will be image generator API or AI. And it's going to be a post. Actually, before I do that, the use as should be action and the data type should be text. And it should be a post because we're posting information to a Azure function. And as an aside, so this, in my previous video, I created a couple videos where I showed you how to create a Microsoft Azure function that pings the ChatGPT model of OpenAI. This one is different. It doesn't ping a ChatGPT model. It pings the image generator for OpenAI. And I just want to show you real quick how the code differs. So I'm pulling up my Visual Studio Code, and in the previous video, I walked you through the code that you need to create a Microsoft Azure function that does that pings the ChatGPT. But this one, we're pinging the image, OpenAI image. And so basically, there's only a few things that are different. In this code, the output we're calling openai.image.create, and then there's 3 arguments: prompt, n, which corresponds to the number of images that we want, and size, the size of the image. And then, so we're sending this information to OpenAI's image generator and getting back. This needs to change to output data 0 URL. So it's really, you can use the same code that I showed you in my previous video for connecting a Microsoft Azure function to a ChatGPT model. In that case, it was the 3.5 Turbo. You can use that same code, but just change these lines here to create a Azure function that connects to the image creator, the OpenAI image creator. So anyhow, let me go back to the bubble. We've named it image generator. We've set its action, text, it's a post, and we need the URL of the Azure function that I'm going to use. And so I'm going to go to my Microsoft Azure program here, and I've already, let's see. So this is the image generator function in my OpenAI image function app. And I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to get my function. Again, remember this particular function connects to the OpenAI API. So I'm going to get this URL, and I'm going to plug it in here. And I'm going to remove my head here because it's getting in the way. I'm going to paste it here. And then the next thing to do is body type raw. And I'm going to enter in the raw arguments that we're going to pass to this Azure function, which then is going to pass to OpenAI's API. And let me pause a second while I get that. Okay, let me paste it in here. And so there's basically 3 elements. There's the prompt, which is essentially the description of the image that we would like OpenAI to create, and the number of images, which is n1, and then the size of the image. So the last thing to do to install this API plugin here, this API connector, is to click on initialize call. And if everything's set up correctly, we'll get back a HTTP address. We won't see the actual image. We'll see a link that we can plug into a browser to see the image. So let me click on initialize call, and hopefully this works. Great. So this is the URL of the image that we just requested of the sun setting over the ocean. And let me pause a moment while I copy this and plug it into my browser. And let's see if we get something approximating what we requested. Okay, great. So it worked. Let me go over to this. This is the image that we got back from OpenAI based on our request. So it's an image of the sun setting over the ocean. Now let's go back to our program here. And the next thing to do is to go back to workflow. Now that that's working, we've tested it and we see that it's working. And click here. So when button get response is clicked, we want to add an action. And the action that we want to add is this plugin that we just created. So we want to click on Primary Connector Image Generator AI. Okay. So we've got that set up. And the next thing to do is set state. Oops, let me delete this. So actually, let me go back to that. You can see here, this is the requirements that we entered when we were setting it up. It pops up and shows you the body of the request object. And we see the description or the prompt that we requested here. So let me close that. The next thing we want to do is something called setting state. So let's click on this here for the next the next flow in our workflow, or the next item in our workflow. And we want to go to element actions, set state. Okay, so we want to set state for the image element. So I'm going to click on that, and we want to create a custom state. And the custom state, so click on custom state, create new custom state. And we want to enter in the name and type. And the name that we want, you can name it anything, but I'm going to call it API output URL. And API output URL, and the state type is going to be text. And create. And the value, so we want to set the value for the state for the image. Remember, image A is that box we created underneath the get image button or get response button, where we want the picture or the image from OpenAI to go. So I'm going to click on value, and it's going to be the result of step one. So the result of what we got back from OpenAI. Okay. And that's it. And let's go back to design. And I think I'm going to change this. I think I want it to say get image instead of get response. Get image. I think that works a little bit better. Okay, so let's close that. And now that we set state, we want to render the response into the image box. So I'm going to double click on that, and then click on, so let me move this over. So you can see insert dynamic data. So we've set the state, but now we want to render. We want to actually set things up so that the app renders the image that we get back from OpenAI. So I'm going to click insert dynamic data, and I'm going to then click on image AI, and I'm going to select image AI is the custom state that we just created. So image A's API output URL. And then this is placed here in our box. So basically what this is doing is it's rendering the output that we got from when we sent the request to the API. And then the final thing to do, let me close this out, is to check to see if this works. So I'm going to go to preview, and hopefully when I click that button, get image, should render fairly soon here. Okay. So this is a test version of our app, and I haven't hooked up yet this input box. So this doesn't work yet. What I'm testing to see is if I click on this get image, do I get a picture of a sun setting over the ocean rendered below it. So if this is all set up and working correctly, that's what should happen. So I'm going to click on Get Image. And perfect, it works. So we got our image of the sun setting over the ocean, rendered properly. Now, the final thing to do is to hook up this input box so we can actually enter in different descriptions and get different images back. So I'm going to go back to our app here. And the final thing to do, so in order to do that, we need to go back to our workflow. And click on this primary connector. And you see this is the arguments that we're always sending to the API. Well, first to our Microsoft Azure function, which then is sending it to the OpenAI API. And we want to make this dynamic. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this text here, right? And then I'm going to click on Insert Dynamic Data. And I'm going to select this Input Enter Description. So this is our input box. And then I'm going to select the value, the information that's entered into that input box. Now that is now placed into our prompt, which is sent over to our serverless function with Microsoft Azure, which is then sent to the OpenAI API. Okay, so the last thing to do then is to check to see if that's working. So I'm going to click on Preview again. And then I'm going to enter in the description of an image that I would like to see. And let's see. A forest with a trail winding through it. Okay, and click on Get Image, and hopefully we'll get back an image with a forest with a trail winding through it. Perfect. So that's it. This is, I find this to be really amazing. You can basically use AI through OpenAI to generate any image you want. And, and this one looks pretty realistic to me. It's actually quite amazing. So let's do another one just to see. See the sun setting over a wheat field with a nearby barn. So maybe that's 2 words, wheat field. Click on Get Image, and let's see what we get back. Perfect. We got an image back of what we requested. And now I'm going to try one last one, which I'm curious about. Psychedelic. Psychedelic. I can't spell psychedelic. How do you spell psychedelic? Image. Colorful. Let's just see what that gets us. So this is, I'm not trying to render an actual AI generated picture, but just kind of like a pattern. Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, I could, you know, do all sorts of, I can make some adjustments, or, with my prompt, I can't actually make adjustments to this image that it gave me in this particular app, but, I could play around with my prompt or my description, give it some more instructions to get different responses. So that's it. I hope this video was helpful. A helpful way to show you how to create an app, a no-code app using Bubble, in which you can generate images from OpenAI. You can use an API to generate images from OpenAI. And yeah, hopefully it was helpful, and I will see you next time.